Welcome to this session. In this session, we are going to be considering transform and transition. Now, when we talk about transform, it's just the CSS property that is used to move or change the appearance of an element. Like sometimes we might want to change the way an element appear, use transform. And when the element is being transformed from one form to another, you might want to add transition to it, in the sense that you don't just want the change to be so sharp, you want it to change gradually and smoothly for nice user experience. And that's what we are going to be looking at in this session. But for us to see it practically, I want us to define a div. I want to define a div with a class of item. Let's just call this item 1, and we save it. Now we have our item 1. To make our item 1 more visible, and we are still going to be using inline CSS. And to make our item 1 more visible, let us add some border to it. Let's first set the width to maybe 100 pixel. Let's set the height to also 100 pixel. Let's set some border around it. Let's set some border, maybe 1 pixel solid, and let's make it this time around to be blue. Save it. Now we can see our item, but to see everything I'm going to be doing in action, I want us to pull it a bit to the center of the page. So what we are just going to do is, let's first set the position so that we can position it to the center of the page. Let's set the position to absolute. Let's set it from the top to be maybe 100 pixel. Let's push it further, maybe 300 pixel. Okay, let's make it 200. Yeah, I think that should be fine. And let's make it from the bottom, no, from the left. So we see everything we are doing in. Let's set this to maybe 150 pixel. Yeah, that's fine now. 150 pixel look too much. Let's set it to 100 pixel. Yeah, 100 pixel is good. Now this is what we are going to be doing. Let's now see our transforming action now. So you want to change this. The first thing you want to do is, maybe you want to rotate it. If you want to rotate, use the function rotate. Use the function rotate, and you define the degree at which you want to rotate it. Let's say you want to rotate it 45 degree clockwise. You just set 45 deg. So you can see that it has been rotated 45 degree clockwise. Anti-clockwise is negative. You can see now that this is anti-clockwise, and just like you can have 45 degree, you can definitely have 180. See that as 180. You can have 235 anti-clockwise. So if it's negative, it's anti-clockwise, but if it is positive, it is clockwise. So let's comment it out so that it come back to the normal form. So that is the first transform in action. Another transform that we can have is the scale. The scale is to increase the size. The scale is to increase the size both horizontally and vertically. You can see that we have different transform properties. So we are going to be considering scale now to increase it, the size of the elements both horizontally and vertically. So on the x-axis, let's say I want to increase it by times 2. You know, it was formerly 100 pixel. So let's say on the x I want to increase it by 2, and on the y I want to increase it by 3. So if I save it now, you see that it has increased in size horizontally and it has increased in size vertically, but the vertical increment is more than the horizontal increment, because I set the scale to 2, 3. So this is x, this is y. So that is that about scaling. So if I save it now, it come back to the normal. So we also have another transform property that I want us to consider. And that is the skew. This skew, it's just like rotating it in terms of 3 dimension. So you want it to be rotated a bit 3 dimension. You set it so on the y-axis and on the x-axis too. So let's say I want it to be rotated on the x-axis 20 degree clockwise, and on the y-axis I want to be rotated maybe 30 degree clockwise. So if I save it now, see that it rotates, so it's just like pushing it and slanting it. So that is skew. So of course, if you are thinking anti-clockwise, just set it to negative till you have what you want, and that is skew. So I save this, I comment it out. And another transform property that I want us to consider is the translate. So this translate is just to move the elements. So maybe you don't want to be at the position you want to change or move a bit. So horizontally, let's say you want to move 100 too much. Maybe you want to move 34 pixel horizontally, and vertically you want to move maybe 50 pixel. So it's going to change position without changing. See that it was, if I comment it out now, notice the position. If I uncomment it and save it, you see that it's moved by the spacing or the distance that I have set here. So that is translate. And we also have others that you can explore. And one thing I should mention at this point is that you can combine more than one transform property. You can definitely set all these values that we have defined here. You can apply to just one transform property. You can set the rotate, you can set the scale, you can set the scale separated by space, you can set the translate, you can set the skew, you can set the skew, and you can also set this translate, all using one transform property. If I save this now, everything will be applied, so it's push it far away. So let's just attach just two, so you can apply more than one property. That's just to let you know that you can apply more than one property to a transform. So that is that about that. Now let's now see. So that is that about transform. Of course, we have other properties of transform that you can explore, but for now we are going to be limiting ourselves to those ones that we have mentioned. Now we also have the transition, so which is used to smoothly change the state of an element from one form to the other. And to practicalize that, let's have another item. So let me save this, this come to the normal form. Let's have another item, maybe it's item 2 now, or should I just maintain item 1? So no, let me just have item 2, item 2, class item 2. So I define a new class now inside my style tag. So item 2, and in this item 2, let's just come and set the width and height. Background to be red. Now this is item 2. So now let's say as the item is changing from one state to the other, maybe when I hover my mouse on it, when I put my mouse on it, I want the background to change, or maybe I want the size to change. Let me also change the position of it to, well, I'm just going to be changing the position and change the position to from the top. Let me just make it to be below the previous one I've set there. I think it's too far. 400 should be good. Yeah, 400 is good. So now this is this. Let's say I want to increase the height or the width and height when I hover my mouse on it. Then what should I do? And I don't want the change. Okay, let me set the change first. Let's say I have my item 2. When I hover, I want the width and height to be multiplied by 2. Just copy this, set this to 200, set it to 200 pixel. I save it. Now let's say I see that the change was so sharp, so sharp, so sharp, so sharp. Let's say I don't want it to be that sharp. I want it to slowly increase, and all I just need to do is come to the parent element and set a transition property. Now how do I want it to transition? Like, so can set to the width to the height. So I want the width to increase gradually. And how long should the width increase? Let's say I want to increase for 2 seconds before getting to the normal. So you see the effect of transition. I see that so smooth. It's not like the previous one that was so sharp. So if I want to have smooth transition, of course I know the width will change to 200 pixels, but I don't want the change to be so sharp. So you see that it's so sharp here, so sharp, so sharp. But if I set the transition, it's going to take it gently or take it so slowly so that it will have a smooth transition. So of course you can also have your height, you can also have your height. So you can separate this with a comma that okay, I know the height will increase, so I don't want the height increase to be too sharp too. So I also want the height to increase for 2 seconds. So save this. You can see now, so smooth, so smooth. And that is the power of transition in action. So that is that about transform and transition.